Hello everybody, Daniel Gaines here. Sorry about the abrupt end to the last video. Ran out of room, time for the video. Phone memory issues, or yeah, I guess that's what it is. I don't know. Don't have a lot of room on my phone to record. There's a lot of things on my phone I can't delete right yet, so therefore I'm limited. What I left off saying was the evidence. It appears only Tony Manansala, the judge, has access to or has seen. Nobody else. The statute that I showed, even if I can't tie that into it, but seeing as it is impacting me financially, I should be able to do so quite easily. Even if for some reason they don't, there's still the statute that I showed with Montgomery, which is still a Class E felony under Missouri statute. So you can go back and check that video and see that statute, and you'll see that it's correct. Now, he's been accused of lying about it and falsifying it. He's had opportunity to address it through his counsel and has thus far refused to do so. So, based on statute, he has no other options. Now, outside of that, the issue with everything is that it's all hung up, which means it's the judge preventing justice from being done by his refusal to comply with the law. See, the judges aren't the law. They're beholden to it. Okay. They're beholden to it. They don't get to legislate from the bench. They don't get to interpret the laws from the bench. They don't get to manipulate the law from the bench. They have to comply with the law as written. And the problem in this case is Manansala refuses to do so. See, Manansala fancies himself to be above the law, but actually I think it's worse. Personally, I think he fancies himself to be the law, which is arguably way worse. However, I can't say I'm surprised at the treatment I'm receiving in his courtroom. If you go through and look at Manansala's record as a judge, you'll find there's all kinds of questionable decisions that he's made regarding pro se litigants. Enough to thoroughly and easily prove the man's extremely biased against pro se litigants. Which to me, and I'm stating that as fact, not it appears, not that, oh, it could be interpreted that way. No, that's a fact. His record proves he is biased against pro se litigants. Which to me makes me think either as an attorney or a judge, one, likely as an attorney before he became a judge, he was thoroughly embarrassed by a pro se litigant. Sorry, it's windy. He was thoroughly embarrassed by a pro se litigant. And ever since, has had an extreme bias against the pro se litigants. And again, go look at his judicial record. Jailing them for no cause or improper cause, issuing orders against them that are exceedingly questionable, denying motions mere literal minutes after they're filed, even multi-page documents, which just begs the question, if a 10-page document is filed and 2 minutes after it's filed, it's denied, did you have time to read it? I showed you the document earlier. The date it was filed, he claimed it was reviewed and wouldn't do anything else. I call out in that document that I don't even believe he's reading any of my filings. And lo and behold, it appears that he proved it to be correct. Several pro se litigants who were jailed by Manansala were then injured while in the jail or came to some other kind of harm while in the jail. Not saying Manansala had anything to do with it, just saying it's a coincidence. Let's see. Manansala so far appears to be one of the worst judges when it comes to how corrupt he is in Jefferson County. I know for a fact he reached out to Judge Coleman in the traffic citation, the speeding ticket that they manufactured against me, to ensure that if he failed to punish me in some way, Coleman would do so, and Coleman acquiesced and gladly agreed to do so. Let's see, that's Judge Coleman, Jefferson County Circuit Court. Let's see, Rathert helped facilitate sweeping under the rug the criminal conduct by Manansala. Victor Mellenbrink has done the same, facilitating in the cover-up. The Attorney General's office, through Kevin Smith, has done the same. Through Michelle Stallings has done the same, although she's not with the Attorney General's office anymore. She used to be. And it appears that Judge Frawley, an out-of-town judge, a visiting judge assigned by the state Supreme Court, is engaging in the same. I told these people I was going to expose this stuff. I meant what I said. They can seal the case if they want, because I'm telling y'all the case number and telling y'all to go check and see what I'm saying. Fact check me on if the evidence is on the case record or not and everything else. They can put it all under seal. Let them. The instant they do, I put all documents on this channel and then post it on my Facebook and tag these people in it to let them know that I did it. They can issue a gag order. This is what they'll get in response. I won't comply, and I've told them that. I have the First Amendment right to expose corrupt public servants, and I intend to do so. See, the reality is... One second, let me get a drink. See, the reality is, there is no evidence that exists on the record. What you will find, though, on the record is one of the emails I sent to Manansala after he retaliated and issued the warrant. Now, keep in mind, I never got to see the warrant until just recently. And if you look at the lawsuit against Gaines v. Manansala, Dugan and Manansala, Manansala versus Dugan, or Manansala and Dugan, whichever one it is, you will see that in that case, I filed whenever I finally got to see the warrant, because at that point I had proof that it was falsified, right? Because I actually got to see the warrant finally, excuse me. Until then, I just knew of it, never seen it. So it's one of those things that it wasn't laid out fully that it was false. I mean, it was accused that it was retaliatory, but wasn't laid out that it was falsified until after I seen the warrant, because I didn't know before then that it was falsified. I just knew it was retaliatory because the prosecutor was allowed to miss court on January 9th being sick. I was sick in March, on the 27th of March of this year, and I couldn't attend a hearing because of that. Both of us notified the courts in the same manner, but yet I get a warrant, and the prosecutor, I wasn't even allowed to object to him not being there. But yet he was allowed to object to me not being there and request the warrant. So it's already a 14th Amendment violation that they're both guilty of and they both intentionally engaged in. So we already have that issue. But it's... After that, I called out the judge in an email for retaliation, right? The initial, or the January 9th hearing, he tried to force me to undergo a mental health eval without anyone requesting it, without any reason, just because he felt like it, because that's the day I filed the lawsuit. So he had to try and, interfere with the lawsuit like he's interfering with my ability to appeal now. So he was trying to do so. It blew up in his face because even outside counsel filed into the case and said the law doesn't allow you to do that, bud. But anyway, I called him out that day on the record, and I have audio recording of this, so don't worry. I didn't take the audio recording, but I have the audio recording. Anyway, as soon as I called him out for a retaliation, he looked at his clerk, or the court reporter, looked at me, leaned forward, and said, "There'll be order in this court." Basically saying, if you call out my corruption, I'm going to jail you. which he can't do. You're allowed to call out his corruption on court record. That's how you preserve those things for appeal. So he's already guilty of attempted record tampering, witness intimidation. The fact that I watched his court reporter in real time not include all that on the record is further record tampering, altering records, destruction of evidence, potentially. That would be a stretch, though. But still, it could come into play. But there's still several crimes that are associated with just that one act alone. But anyway, because of all that, in an email I sent to the judge, I told him, I will absolutely end your career over this. Meaning his misconduct, retaliation, and falsifying stuff, I will absolutely end his career because of that. And that, my friends, is what I personally believe the entire basis for his clear and convincing evidence. Because I said I would cost him his career for engaging in corruption and misconduct. The reason that's exceedingly relevant is because Tony has been riding a bench for over a decade now. That means more than 10 years he's been a judge. You mean to tell me in 10 years as a judge, he still hasn't learned, even with all his years as an attorney, because he's been practicing law since damn near the time I was born, and I'm 44 years old, mind you. So almost in a 40-year career, this man has never learned or never heard that saying you're going to sue a public servant, say you're going to get a public servant fired, you're going to ruin their career as a public servant or their reputation as a public servant. He's never heard that not only is that not a threat, it cannot be deemed a threat. You mean to tell me in a 40-year legal career, he's never heard of that? More than a decade on the bench, he's never heard of that? But yet, that appears to be the entire basis for his clear and convincing evidence. Make it make sense. Make it make sense why nobody else will do anything about it. See, I don't advocate violence. I don't advocate harm to another. However, it does pose questions. Like, what options are left when everybody who's supposed to make sure this type of stuff doesn't happen refuses to do anything about it? The Constitution's clear, but that just brings more problems than it solves. So, what options are left? Nobody wants to answer that question, right? Which I find telling and interesting. Nobody wants to address the fact that these people are blatantly violating the law. But yet, if we did that, we'd go to jail for it. See, all these things that they intentionally do and know they're doing and will admit to it when forced to because they know there will be no accountability, these are the same people who will sit there and wonder why there are those rare people who end up taking matters into their own hands. Now, I don't support them. I don't agree with what they do. However, I can't understand what they did. They are very different things, but I think everything should be, personally, I think things should be handled through the legal process. I think it exists for a reason, and I think eventually there is no other option but for it to be taken care of through the proper legal channels. There are so many different options available that you need to go through, and unfortunately you have to go through a lot of those hoops to find any kind of accountability for these corrupt people. But ultimately, I believe there's a better likelihood of it happening versus it not happening, and that's accountability. Even if it means voters hold him to account by removing him from office, that's still accountability. So that's my path. I'm just saying, these people do all this stuff, and then they wonder all this stuff. But see, even me speaking on that is likely going to get me falsely accused of things. Because that's what they do. They can't get me for actually breaking the law because I don't. So they have to manufacture things and make things up. Just like that traffic ticket. The same officer who video will show was in the courthouse shaking hands with William Scott. He's a detective, not William Scott, but the officer that gave me the speeding ticket. And then shaking hands with Rachel Montgomery. Walks down the hall. When he came in the opposite door just to walk past and stare at me, the same cop then followed me from the courthouse, literally followed me for 25 minutes, and then pulls me over. And then while on the side of the road, literally changes the speed I was allegedly doing 3 different times. All on video. Prosecutor's office refuses to provide the video from the courthouse or the officer's GPS information because they know that it's going to prove it was manufactured. It was a pretextual stop. And no basis for it. They have no evidence, just the officer's claim, which again is disputed by his own words, on video on the side of the road. On M. Yeah, it was M right there where I got the ticket. Coming from Hillsborough into Barnhart. So it's just they know they can't do anything legit because I don't do anything that isn't legit, and therefore they have to make stuff up, and that's the only way they can even bother me. They just underestimated who they were dealing with. They didn't realize that the one pro se litigant they probably should have left alone is the one they decided to try and bully and force into waiving his rights. Because that's just it. Manansala thinks he's going to leave me in jail for a while, and then I'm just going to agree to everything and allow all of this and everything else. I'll drop my lawsuits and everything else just to try and get out of jail. He's got another thing coming. I'll sit and not care. Because the reality is, every second I'm there, Dugan, Manansala, Frawley, Marshak, Sides, Smith, Stallings, Rathert, Mellenbrink, and everybody else who's involved that's a public servant, to include Manansala's court reporter, his court clerk, the bailiff in his courtroom, and everybody else, they will be paying me for literally every second I'm sitting in jail. So I'm not worried about it. I already have the habeas typed up. Frawley's name is in it. And yeah, I mean, I've got everything ready. So it's just a matter of Frawley setting a court date for me to go and expose Manansala and Dugan and Stallings and Kevin Smith. And going from there. Frawley's going to do or don't do what he's going to do or not do. It ain't my decision to make. It's his. It's just my decision if I hold him accountable for if he continues to engage in the same type of conduct he's thus far engaged in. You know, intentionally ignoring evidence, trying to facilitate the cover-up of the criminal conduct of a fellow judge, a municipal prosecutor, and 2 attorneys. You know, his fellow club members. Yeah. The bar is one big criminal organization. Every one of its members, there's not a single bar member in this nation, in my honest opinion, who is on the up and up 100%. I don't think there's a single one. And I'll debate any judge, any lawyer, any bar member on this. Give me their case file. I guarantee you, I'll find something on them. I'll find dirt on them. I'll find corruption on them. Guaranteed. Doesn't matter who it is. That's how bad the Bar Association and its club is. That's how corrupt that entire organization and its members are. Think I'm lying? Start checking. Oh, and violations include any instance of any civil rights being violated by any of these people, or them allowing civil rights to be violated without pushing back in the courts, filing it appropriately with the higher courts, and filing the complaints against the judge who did so. Because that's part of their requirements based on their Bar Association's own guidelines. None of them comply. Literally. Oh, look at the judicial canons for the state of Missouri. Look in the case file for the trespass case. I gave you all the case number in the last video in part 1. Look at the judicial canons. Look at the case file. Look at what I filed. You'll see I've cited the appropriate judicial canons. I've provided sufficient evidence and everything else to the courts that say Manansala is disqualified. He's not allowed to be a part of this case. Yet he refuses to recuse, despite the fact that he has no legal authority in this case anymore. He stripped himself of that. And we don't even have to include the lawsuit to get to that point. Literally, every single disqualifying factor for a judge, Manansala has done, and it's all listed in the case file. And then there's the lawsuit on top of it, which higher courts than anything in the state of Missouri said is automatically disqualifying because the possibility of bias at that point is unconstitutionally tolerable. It's so high, whether it happens or not, the mere possibility that it could happen is higher than what the Constitution will allow or tolerate. There is U.S. Supreme Court case law that states this. Not Daniel Gaines who says this. See, that's ultimately why I'm really disliked by these people. Because I'm educated. I'm not a club member of theirs. Therefore, I shouldn't know their rules. I shouldn't know the laws. I shouldn't know the case law. I shouldn't know their code of conducts, their policies, their canons, and all that. Pardon me. I shouldn't know any of that because I'm not a club member. And the fact that I do know all of that, oh, how dare I have the audacity to be an educated citizen and not pay their club to allow them to do this to me. Because believe you, if I had a lawyer, that lawyer wouldn't push back against Manansala. You know why? Because Manansala is known to engage in retaliatory actions against lawyers and litigants both. No lawyer in this county will stand up to Judge Manansala because they all know he will go after them if they do. They won't call out his misconduct. They won't even file with the higher courts about his misconduct because they know he will go after them if they do. There are numerous attorneys, if you put them under oath, they will testify to this. If you go to some of their soirees where, they're rubbing elbows and chit-chatting and gossiping, you'll hear their own words. They say this. No, I'm not privy to those parties. I wouldn't go if I was. But that doesn't mean I don't know people who don't go. That doesn't mean I don't have connections who are at those parties. It doesn't mean I don't know people who are part of their club and who they do rub elbows with. No, it doesn't mean any of that. It just means I'm not one of them, nor will I ever be. See, I don't make stuff up. I don't just say things for the sake of saying things. I say stuff, if I say it with certainty, it's because I have proof of it. Otherwise, I'll say it either appears or possibly or it's alleged. I'm very clear to caveat what I can't prove, but I've heard. And a lot of times I'll state that it's something that I've heard. Usually I'll inform, it appears or something like that. Not all times I say it appears, but in some instances. However, I don't make claims I can't prove. So anything I say as fact or with certainty, guarantee I can prove it. Or I wouldn't say it. The reality is, if you make false claims against public servants, knowingly false allegations, especially allegations of criminal wrongdoing, you can be held accountable for that, right? And not just civil suits. You can be held criminally liable for those acts. Did you know that? Look into it. All states and the federal government have statutes related to it. Now, First Amendment allows you to voice your opinions, your thoughts, to expose wrongdoing, but it doesn't allow you to falsely accuse someone of crimes or slander or defame them. So, any of these public servants, at any time, they can try to come at me. If I'm lying, sue me. There's defamation, there's slander, there's libel. I put it in documents. I put it on here, on YouTube, and on Facebook. I say it to anybody who will listen. Come at me. Bring criminal charges if I can't prove what I'm saying. I'll wait. And I really hope one of these days somebody is stupid enough to do so. Thing of it is, I've been at this for, almost 22 years now. Called out high-ranking military members, doctors, lawyers, judges, damn, I'm drawing a blank. The idiots who represent the children in divorces. Wow, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on that. But either way, DCYF workers. I've called out all kinds of people, attorney generals, or attorneys generals, to be correct. Although I think that just sounds stupid, personally, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, I call a lot of these people out. Crickets for many of them. Interesting, considering they all hate me. They all want to get me if they can. They all want me silenced somehow. But yet they can't find anything to do so on. But if you ask them, oh, I'm lying about everything. But yeah, why won't they do a damn thing about it? They don't know my financial situation. For all they know, I could be rich. I'm not. Let's clarify that. But they don't know that. They hear my voice, the way I speak, the foul language I use, and the fact that I won't use an attorney, and they automatically just make assumptions based on that. Oh, this guy's clearly an uneducated, broke bum who doesn't know anything, can't afford anything, or anything else. Not entirely accurate. Sorry about you. Like it or not. That's just simply not the reality. Now, I'm not rich by any means, but the simple reality is they can still use it to silence me. If I'm lying. If I'm lying. But seeing as with all things, I do show evidence, I do show proof, I don't make claims that I don't back up. Now, have I said things that I haven't released the evidence for yet? Correct, I have, but I don't want to provide them everything that the jury's going to hear before the jury gets to hear it, because I don't want them trying to realize or trying to dismiss the case because they know how screwed they are. So that's why I don't reveal everything. However, based on what evidence I have shown, with some of the claims I have made, why would I then turn around and ruin my reputation and my name by saying other things that I can't prove? To me, it just doesn't make sense. Especially whenever right now, the evidence all is on my side. The truth is completely on my side. Why would I risk that? That's just, to me, that would just be the epitome of stupid. So, in due course, every allegation I've made will have corresponding evidence provided to you. Some of it will be before the trial, like what I posted today. Some of it will not be able to be shared until after the trial, because some of it I don't want to give away that I have. Some of it I don't want to give away what all it shows. And some of it they don't know I have yet, because it was provided to me from their own people. There's not a lot of that type, but there are several things that their own people provided me. And it's stuff that I'm not supposed to even know exists. But all of it will be presented to the juries, and subsequently everybody of the public who wants to see it, whether you're in Jefferson County or not. Last video, I challenged everyone to look at the case record and find the clear and convincing evidence. I stand by that challenge. However, in this one, I'll also issue another challenge. Reach out to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Find out why they won't allow citizens to file criminal police reports against public servants when the citizens have direct evidence of crimes committed by the public servants in Jefferson County. Ask them why they refuse to do anything about public corruption in Jefferson County. Number can be looked up. Jefferson County Sheriff's Department at Jefferson County, Missouri, located in Hillsborough, Missouri. Call and ask. And on that note, I'm out. Y'all have a good day. Again, Daniel Gaines. Share this. Well, at least the first video where I show the falsified warrant and the case number. Share this. Let's make Manansala famous for being the most corrupt judge in Jefferson County, like he deserves. Y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.